Have you ever noticed something strange about life? The harder you chase something, approval, attention, even love, the faster it slips away. The moment you make yourself too available, too eager, too present, people stop valuing you. Why is that? Why does silence sometimes weigh more than 1,000 words? Why does absence often leave a stronger mark than constant presence? Think about it. We live in a world addicted to noise. Phones buzzing, feeds refreshing, people talking just to fill the void. Everyone is everywhere, all the time, showing up, posting, replying instantly, desperate not to be forgotten. But here's the paradox. The more they show up, the easier they are to ignore. The more they speak, the less their voice matters. And then there are the few, the rare individuals who do the opposite. They don't rush to prove themselves. They don't flood every conversation with their presence. They choose silence. They disappear when everyone else is screaming for attention. They control their access like it's gold. And because of that, when they finally appear, the world pays attention. This isn't weakness. It isn't retreat. It's strategy. It's what I call the currency of absence. And here's the truth most people never understand. Absence is not emptiness. Absence is value. Every moment you withdraw, every second you hold back, you are multiplying your worth. Presence without scarcity is cheap, but when your presence becomes rare, it becomes priceless. Today, we're going to decode this art, not through the shallow lens of self-help cliches, but through the ruthless clarity of Niccolò Machiavelli, the cold architect of power, and the calm wisdom of the Stoics, the philosophers who mastered inner discipline. Machiavelli will show you why absence is power. The Stoics will show you how to wield it without losing yourself. Together, they reveal a truth most people will never live long enough to discover. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is not to be seen at all. So listen carefully, because once you understand how absence becomes currency, you'll never waste your presence again. Let's start with a simple truth that stings. What is always available is rarely respected. Think of the friend who never says no. Call them at midnight, they answer. Need a favor, they drop everything. They show up at every gathering, respond to every text, nod to every demand. At first, it feels good. Someone so dependable, so present. But over time, what happens? People stop thanking them. They stop noticing. That constant presence fades into the background like wallpaper. Because human psychology works on a brutal law. Familiarity breeds indifference. It doesn't matter if it's friendships, relationships, or business. When you're always there, you train others to believe your presence costs nothing. And if it costs nothing, it must be worth nothing. Look at our culture. In America, we worship hustle. We glorify busyness, endless availability, being on 24/7. We think it makes us valuable, but in reality, it makes us disposable. The worker who answers emails at 2 a.m. is never respected. He's exploited. The partner who bends over backward to always be present isn't adored. They're taken for granted. And this isn't just theory, it's biology. Our brains are wired for novelty. We crave what is scarce and ignore what is constant. You notice the one star in the night sky that shines brighter, not the thousands that look the same. You value the meal you only get once a year, not the one you eat every day. Scarcity shapes perception, and perception shapes value. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. He warned rulers never to become too common, too visible, too easy to approach. A prince who is seen everywhere loses mystique, and mystique is power. He understood that distance creates authority. Too much familiarity erodes it. The Stoics, on the other hand, explained why we fall into this trap. Because deep down, we're afraid. Afraid of being forgotten. Afraid of being left behind. Afraid of not mattering. So we overcompensate. We show up everywhere, talk too much, explain too often. But here's the irony. The more you try to prove your value by being present, the faster that value slips through your fingers. Presence without scarcity becomes noise, but presence with restraint becomes signal. Ask yourself this: which voice carries more weight? The one that talks all the time, or the one that speaks rarely but decisively? Which presence do people crave more? The person who's always around, or the one whose arrival feels like an event? This is the first shift in mastering the currency of absence. You must stop confusing constant presence with significance. You must understand that availability is not generosity, it's self-erasure. Every time you rush to reply, every time you say yes without thinking, every time you insert yourself just to feel included, you're trading your value for scraps of validation. And scraps never feed power. The Stoics would remind us, if your worth depends on the opinion of others, you have surrendered yourself. Machiavelli would add, if you're too easy to reach, you've already lost the game. So let this sink in. If you are everywhere, you are invisible. But if you are scarce, you are unforgettable. This is where we begin. Understanding that presence is not about being constant. Presence is about being calibrated, controlled, rare, because only then does it command attention. Now that you see why constant presence destroys value, let's flip the coin. Let's talk about scarcity. Scarcity is not just a principle of economics. It's the oldest law of human desire. What is rare is wanted. What is common is ignored. Think of a diamond. At the end of the day, it's just a stone. But because it's rare, people fight wars to own it. Now think of a pebble on the sidewalk. Also a stone. But because it's everywhere, no one cares enough to pick it up. The same law applies to you. Your time, your attention, your presence. If you give it away too freely, it becomes the pebble. If you ration it, it becomes the diamond. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He wrote that a ruler must not show himself too often. If he's always visible, the people lose awe. But if he appears rarely, every appearance feels monumental. The Stoics took this law inward. They knew that discipline is the engine behind scarcity. Only a disciplined mind can hold back. Only someone free from the hunger of validation can stand still while others rush to be seen. Ask yourself, why do some leaders command silence when they enter a room? Not because they talk louder, not because they're always there, but because they've trained people to expect them rarely. And what's rare is respected. Scarcity transforms your presence from background noise into a signal that cuts through the chaos. It makes every word heavier, every appearance sharper, every silence louder. Here's the paradox. When you give less, people want more. When you step back, they lean forward. When you are absent, you start to haunt their thoughts. This is why scarcity is power, because it flips the dynamic. You stop chasing, they start wondering. You stop proving, they start calculating. Remember this line: absence doesn't reduce your worth, it multiplies it. So, how do you practice absence without losing influence? You use it with precision. There are 3 forms of absence. Each one builds power in a different way. 1. Physical scarcity. Presence on your terms. Don't be everywhere. Don't attend every meeting. Don't show up to every drama. Your presence should feel like an event, not a routine. When you walk into a room, it should feel deliberate, not casual, not accidental. Machiavelli warned rulers about this. A leader seen too often becomes ordinary, but a leader who appears at decisive moments commands awe. Show up rarely, but when you do, bring weight. Let people remember that you came, and let them notice when you leave. 2. Digital scarcity. Breaking the addiction. In today's world, most people are digital slaves. They answer every notification. They reply instantly. They train others to expect unlimited access. That is weakness. You must reverse the script. Create space between their demand and your response. Don't answer right away. Let silence build. Let them feel the gap. That delay makes your attention valuable. It forces others to ask, "Do I still have their focus?" And that question shifts the power back to you. 3. Emotional scarcity. Guarding the inner fortress. Not everyone deserves to know what you feel. Not everyone earns the right to see your fears or your hopes. The Stoics called this mastery of the self. Your inner world is sacred. If you expose it to everyone, you give away the blueprint to control you. Keep parts of yourself hidden. Let people wonder. Silence about your emotions is not coldness. It is discipline, because mystery creates leverage, and what others can't read, they can't manipulate. Together, these 3 forms of absence create a shield: physical, digital, emotional. Each one reduces access. Each one increases respect. Use them all and your presence stops being ordinary. It becomes rare. It becomes unforgettable. Absence does something strange to the human mind. When you are not there, people don't simply forget you. They imagine you. They start asking questions. Where is he? Why isn't she here? Did I do something wrong? And imagination is always louder than reality. This is the hidden weapon of absence. It doesn't just remove you from the room, it plants you inside their head. Machiavelli understood this in politics. When a ruler was rarely seen, his presence carried weight. When he spoke, people listened twice as carefully, because they never knew when they'd hear him again. The same law applies today. Think about that one professor who rarely lectured, or that one boss who almost never called a meeting. But when they did, the entire room went silent. Every word felt heavier. Every gesture felt sharper. Why? Because scarcity triggers anticipation, and anticipation builds power. The Stoics knew the inner version of this law. They warned, don't rush to explain yourself. Don't waste energy defending your every move. Hold back. Let silence carry the message. Because silence is not emptiness. It is a mirror. And when you refuse to fill it, people fill it themselves, with doubts, with questions, with stories. Your absence forces their imagination to work overtime. And here's the paradox. What they invent is usually bigger, scarier, more impressive than the truth. So when you vanish, don't fear being forgotten. Fear never happens. Instead, you become larger than life, a myth in their minds. And myths are untouchable. Absence only becomes power when you use it with intent. This is not hiding. This is strategy. Here's how to weaponize it. Step 1. Stop announcing. Most people say, I'm taking a break, I'm logging off, I need space. That's not absence. That's performance. And performance invites negotiation. True absence is silent. You leave no explanation. You just reduce your presence until it feels like you've disappeared. Step 2. Withdraw strategically. Don't vanish forever. Don't cut ties completely. Pull back from where you are overexposed. Decline some invitations. Answer less often. Be selective. Absence is not retreat. It's pruning. You cut away what drains you, so your energy grows sharper. Step 3. Return with weight. When you come back, don't come back the same. Reappear sharper. Reappear stronger. Let your presence carry proof that you were not idle. Maybe it's new knowledge. Maybe it's results no one saw coming. Maybe it's a calm so solid it unsettles the room. When you return, they should feel the difference instantly. Step 4. Repeat unpredictably. Don't follow a pattern. If you always withdraw for the same amount of time, people adjust. Break rhythm. Sometimes gone for days, sometimes for weeks. Never predictable. Because unpredictability keeps them cautious. This is how you turn absence into leverage, not as an escape, but as a message. A message that says, "My presence is earned, never assumed." Remember this. When you disappear, you starve them of access. When you return, you remind them why it mattered. Over time, they learn the rule. Access to you is not a right, it's a privilege. And that lesson reshapes how they treat you. Absence is not a trick, it's a discipline. And discipline means practice. You will feel the urge to explain yourself. Kill that urge. You will feel the urge to rush back. Resist that urge. You will feel the fear of being forgotten. Face that fear. Machiavelli would say, "Control is lost the moment you act out of desperation." The Stoics would say, "You own nothing if you don't own yourself." So you must train. Start small. Delay a response. Skip a gathering. Hold back a story you wanted to share. Notice how uncomfortable it feels. That discomfort is the weakness leaving you. Each time you resist, your absence gains weight. Each time you withdraw calmly, your presence becomes sharper. This is not about arrogance. It's not about punishing others. It's about reestablishing your value. It's about proving to yourself that your worth doesn't depend on constant validation. And once you master this, your absence will speak louder than your presence ever did. Because people will know, when you are there, it matters. So let's step back. Why does absence matter? Because constant presence makes you ordinary. Scarcity makes you unforgettable. Absence forces imagination. And imagination builds power. Machiavelli showed us the political truth. The rare ruler commands respect. The Stoics showed us the inner truth. The disciplined mind doesn't chase approval. Put them together, and you have the currency of absence. A currency more valuable than money, because it buys you respect, influence, and peace. Remember this line: "My presence is a privilege." Type it in the comments so you see it. Say it so you feel it. Live it so others believe it. And if you're ready to learn more weapons of power, subscribe now. Turn on notifications because the next lesson could arrive at any moment. And like all rare things, you don't want to miss it.